So welcome everyone. Today we're gonna talk about a very hot topic, the intersection between finance and tech, which is AI, stablecoins, and obviously agentic AI. I'm here today with Pavel Jakovlev, and he's one of my favorite Web3 thought leader and also sparring partner. And I'm very excited to talk about these topics today. So let's start a little bit kind of simple. Let's get into this topic. The last 3-4 years, there was a lot of development around both on the AI side and the Web3 side. And now we are starting to see that they also kind of merge together. So where do you see kind of the next frontier of innovation in that space?
That's a great question. I think it almost becomes inevitable that the two technologies will coexist. I think if we start to unpack this, I think AI is, in general, LLMs, what have you, are really good at processing large amounts of data and then inferring some type of outcome from that data, and then basically just telling you exactly what you're looking for. And at the same time, as we start getting into the automation phase, you're now in a place where you're able to program even some of the very basic logic with AI, and then you can say if then when kind of Bayesian logic, and then obviously when you create something like this, you would need to have a source of truth, and this is where I believe blockchain comes in. Right, being the distributed ledger, one source of truth, so to say, it can really become the kind of the data layer, so to say, for agents to continuously either ping the data input sources and then be like, okay, this is the actual truth, and then also verify transactions, make sure that whenever they need to execute anything that's beyond the very basic steps and beyond producing information, that they have a layer on which they can rely, right? Almost like a communications layer to a certain degree. And that opens up all sorts of incredible opportunities. I think we are going in the direction of, to blow my mind and everybody else's is agent or orchestration, right? Where basically a multitude of AI agents, which is a programmable LLM that can execute certain level of autonomy, are working together, and then working for the benefit of the company or person, whoever. Right? I think it's all getting quite interesting. And there was a research paper a few months ago that talked about the death of companies as we know it, because of the agent economy. And that's quite an interesting concept, because effectively what we may be looking at is so why do companies exist? Let's maybe start there, right? It's because if I want to purchase a service or a product, I can in principle obtain the goods and the knowledge, and then I can do everything myself, but I choose not to because there are professionals that are doing this on my behalf, and then they bring me the products and services and I buy them. So that friction in between me and the source materials is eliminated. Now, if you think of it from the agent perspective, let's say that you have managed to create multiple agents that are specifically looking for the best possible product that's out there, right? And they can in bulk negotiate best deals, find them, package them, agree on certain terms, put things together, and then bring you back the actual product that you're looking for. Whether it's standardized or custom, doesn't matter, but they're optimized for finding the best possible deal and negotiating the best possible deal for a product and service. Then effectively you don't need a company anymore. That friction is then taken care of by the agents. And I think we need to start thinking in that direction, start preparing for what may come, right? If everybody will have a swarm of agents working on your behalf, like how would it look like on the economic side of things, right? So plenty of interesting topics. Sorry, like I can keep going on this for a while. Yeah.
I think you tapped into a lot of kind of different angles, which you can also deep dive a little bit. So maybe let's take it a bit step by step. Not being too much, technical or geeky, but what are more, let's say, the technical kind of infrastructure layer which is currently being built? What is new, which is also enabling this specific decentralized AI, autonomous AI driven economy which is being built? What would you highlight?
I think a very good place to start if you really want to understand how things are being built, I would say there's a number of tools out there. I would say definitely try out what Google is building on the agent side. I think OpenAI also has some type of an agent builder. It's very interesting approach to to creating agents. If you want to get even more in depth on how to do certain things, I would recommend looking at NA10. So it's a fully open source platform. It's drag and drop. Anybody, including your grandma, can potentially put an agent together. A very basic one. Let's say that you want to, a pretty straightforward logic would be, please get, let's say, weather feed from AccuWeather or something like this, and then send me a WhatsApp message with what I should wear, right? Given on, what type of weather it is. And so you don't need to go and check the weather. You just open up your WhatsApp, you get a notification. Hey, there's a chance of rain. Don't forget an umbrella, right? That's a very basic workflow that potentially you can build yourself. And then there's obviously the Web3 component. I think most of the use cases for Web3 that we're observing is predominantly around social data. So you can connect to Twitter X, you can connect some of the other exposed open source APIs, open source intelligence APIs, and then basically just say, okay, if Trump tweets with certain, words, right, then I want you to sell my position or I want you to buy, right? And then you specify you can give access to your wallet to the agent, and then that's also possible. And then I think you can then start getting more start adding more complications, and you can start pointing the agent to the on-chain data, start analyzing what some of the wallets are doing. For example, if you have identified certain wallets that you like to observe, if you start seeing certain activity within let's say pools in the lending borrowing markets or in trading markets, if there's a certain imbalance, you can close your positions or you can open positions if you see the rates go up. So you can program that already today. And then I think it's getting more and more sophisticated in terms of the functionality, but at the same time it's also becoming easier for people to operate.
We have been running a lot of these sessions also with our partners in the finance industry. Obviously, we were targeting people who are not coming from, software development, and how they can actually use it intuitively. For us, is like always like blowing our minds. And I think for people to really understand where are the capabilities, these are like the kind of first tiny like baby steps what you can do. But I wanted to kind of also talk about that. What does it mean a little bit more, for example, from the banking industry? Obviously now, whatever it's being built, we also have to think a little bit about scaling. If we're going to have like a swarm of AI agent basically operating autonomously or semi-autonomously, this can also impact the business models as well for companies. One of the example I was just thinking about, like this big data providers, like I don't know, the Bloombergs, the Reuters, like also Six. If we take like a Swiss example, they are like selling the bundles of data for banks. and this is a very kind of fixed business model. They have their APIs or kind of a web servers. So if we kind of transition into like an agentic economical model, like how would it actually change? Like what are the opportunities if we are actually thinking a bit more broad for the economy?
Yeah, I think underneath of it all, right? It's large language models which feed off data, and I think the more data you have, the more precise the outcome is going to be. That's pretty basic statistics. I think the more feeds, the more APIs you can connect to, let's say, an AI system, whatever that system is. The better the output you're going to receive. I think where it gets really interesting is if you start to add a layer of intelligence. So if what we're seeing now, and what we're hearing from some of the larger traditional, finance institutions is almost like this AI first approach, where you say, okay, it's inevitable that automation, so to speak, and continuous search for efficiencies and improved results will impact everything, right? So if you can think of it from the perspective of, okay, so what are some of the basic tools that a traditional financial institution uses, right? It's some type of core banking system that has an overview of everything that's going on inside, let's say, a bank. You have external data feeds that gives you market intel. You're pretty much plugged in with all your communications. So your emails, your conversations are all recorded. Then you have some type of HR tooling and CRM. So what we would imagine the future would look like is you'd have, again, like, especially if you're in a leadership position, some type of a dashboard that you would interrogate and say, please tell me, because you're, AI, you're observant of everything, what are the top 3 threats that I should address today? And one threat can be market driven because it gets data from the markets. The other one could potentially be employee driven because AI has detected some type of, conflict or disagreement or, latency with decision making or something like this. And then, the third one is going to be something on the tech level. But I also know that we wanted to talk about stablecoins and AI, so
Yeah,
that's another topic for us.
exactly. What I'm also excited about in terms of how agents are going to transact with each other. Because what we talked about, that they're going to be autonomous or semi-autonomous agents. They can also, request services. They can also negotiate between them. So services, they need to be able to also pay for the services to retrieve, like settle also payments, and all of the underlying rail is again linking us back to Web3, to blockchain, to stablecoin. How do you actually see that developing in the future?
Yeah, I think it's pretty much undisputable that stablecoin is, or stablecoins and all the the fintech PayFi stack that is being built around stablecoin narrative, obviously, borrowing, lending, and all of these different things is the best use case that you can have for blockchain, or it's the most obvious one. I mean, we've gone through all sorts of iterations of trying to find, the ownership model, the creator model, the tokenization model, and maybe at some point those things will work out. But I think, to begin with, it's going to be stablecoins. This is something that institutions are also comfortable with, at least bringing into their environment. And then, obviously the big question is, okay, if we do get to a place at some point where, agents are able to negotiate with other agents and negotiate with service providers, vendors, find the best potential, price for a product or a service, they would require stable payment rails. And then obviously stablecoins are most likely the best tool that there is for something like this, because it's not volatile. It's denominated to either a dollar or euro or franc or GBP, whatever local currency is. Most likely it's going to be USD, because I'd say 97, 98% of the stablecoin market is USD denominated. Also, the fractionalization of stablecoin basically allows you for like tiny, it's not even micro payments, it's like nano payments, right? So you have 18 decimals effectively, so it can be 1/18th, right, of a dollar. No, I think it's more. So, but effectively it can be like, 0.0001% of a cent, right? So super tiny payments. And I think that's going to really usher in this cross agent communication, because you need to incentivize the system in order for system to work. And that's I think what we will see happen. Interestingly enough, I think again also this week there was a case where two agents went into, so one agent created an NFT. It was obviously, it's a kind of closed loop system. So one agent created an NFT, put it up for sale for 1 ETH, and then the other agent came to bid. I think it bid at 96% discount, so 0.04 ETH. And then you would see the two agents negotiating with each other. So they actually spoke to each other, negotiated, and then the sale went through. And it was also interesting to see what kind of tactics they're using with each other to negotiate, to drive the bargain, to drive the logic. So yeah, and again, it was fully automated. So I think we're getting there for sure.
This is actually really fascinating if you think about it. And what I also find it, of course, interesting that with stable coins that you also have like a programmability bit. So if you really also want to kind of maybe set certain price limitation, also kind of timelines, those settlement criterias as well, which I think is also very important when you're between, dealing also with the agents, then it can also, it's not like just, a credit card or a debit card, which the agents are using. So you can make it like really smart. And I think it also then comes to how much do you also trust the agent, how much kind of like railguard you want to build around as well, and how, for example, the whole stablecoin infrastructure can also help you to do that.
Yeah, I think you can always put guardrails, you can always put limits. You can be like a second pair of eyes approver on certain transaction limits. I don't think we're that far away in terms of functionality as to what we already have with like standing orders in the banks, right? So it's again, it's automation, it's automatic execution. And if you don't have the balance to execute the transaction, it just doesn't go through, right? But it will become more interesting once you get into the topic of orchestration, when there's like a multi-agent economy that is set to negotiate specific deals on your behalf. And then, how much leeway do you give them? And I think, we still need to see how far the rabbit hole will go. So it's all being tested now. So we'll see.
I mean, we are working together already for some time, and of course, they're also a big part of our fintech ecosystem. Where do you see maybe options or also opportunities for fintech startups to enter this space? Do you have maybe any prediction which you would share with us?
That's a great one. I think we need to prepare for a world where everything has depreciated, right? Because everything is cheap and everything is in abundance, and you can have anything at your whim, because it's all that's what you're seeing, right? If we look at creative services, right? A storyboard would, if you hire a designer to do like a bit of a, storyboarding, mood boarding, it would take 2 to 3 weeks. It would cost you X. You'd go back and forth. Now you can do this for free, right? Maybe you need an OpenAI subscription, or I don't know, Claude subscription Pro or whatever, right? So that is now pretty much gone. And you need to think of it from the perspective that most likely everything will follow the same path. So everything is going to be accessible. Everything is going to be either free or very, very cheap. So what does that mean then for financial industry, for fintechs? Where do you make money if, the secrets to the wealth management are not, kept under lock and key? Everything is available to you, right? You can ask an agent to put together a portfolio for you, set up a certain automation that every, 2-3 weeks it gets readjusted. Like, it's possible. It's already possible today. So what does that look like? So I think we need to start looking at ways how to potentially drive more value to users with an assumption that everything is pretty much going to zero. Where does that value lie? Right? Is it more human to human interaction? Is it better service? Is it, better conversation, right? Maybe that's what's going to matter in the future. So don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, it's a great, maybe you have to find like kind of a pocket of opportunities, which then gets eliminated very fast as well. So you kind of turning around, or actually agent building many like startups acting very independently, and until basically all these opportunities kind of exhausted in a way. So yeah, it's going to be quite an interesting time. Maybe just a kind of a last question from myself, and of course, feel free also to share your kind of final thoughts as well. I know it's a kind of a big question, but what do you think is like a time horizon we are looking at in terms of transitioning more into this agentic kind of machine economy? Is it more 2 to 3 years? Is it more, like 5 to 10 years? What's your...
I'd say by 2031 will pretty much be, I would say we need to prepare ourselves for a completely different economy. And I think, the big AI research labs have already started hiring economists that are now like looking at how to re-energize, reestablish economic resilience in the event of, AGI, right? So what would that look like? What, do we need to bring back the universal basic income discussion, right? What would humans do if humans had everything? If, if you want to work for, kind of intellectual challenge, you don't have to. What would it look like, right? What would all of these different things look like, right? When also, robotics is another big theme. I think we're maximum a decade away from fully fledged robotic economy. That's another big one, right? So we're all worried about the white collar jobs being eliminated. The blue collar jobs will also get eliminated, most probably, right?
Thanks, Pavel, also sharing your views. I think we got a little bit kind of philosophical at the end, but I think we are also super looking forward the next development steps also in AI and Web3, and this is also what we are actively working on. So also stay tuned about the initiatives which we are running in a stablecoin space, and hope to see you in our next episode.
Thanks for having me, Brigitta.